Mr. Chairman, Director Saldaña, I want to reread that quote from the President on February 25th at Florida International University when he said, "There may be individual ICE officials or Border Patrol who aren't paying attention to our new directives, but they're going to be answerable to the head of the Department of Homeland Security because he's been very clear about what our priorities should be. If somebody's working for ICE and there's a policy and they don't follow the policy, there are going to be consequences for it." What did you think about when the President said that and when you learned about it? Did that concern you at all? Did you have any red flags go up at all?
I'm trying to be honest with you, sir. No. I imagine you have staff that you expect to comply with your directives and your policies. I imagine the typical employer in the United States has employees who they expect to follow their directives, their policies. I've got an employee manual this big that says if you violate one of our employment policies, here's the range of punishment you can have. So, no, it didn't strike me as unusual.
Well, if I had policies or directives that were contrary to the law, I would understand if they didn't want to follow them. And so I would expect them to follow the law first.
And that's where you and I probably have a fundamental disagreement.
Oh, okay. Don't you see how some may, in the DHS personnel, perceive that as perhaps a threat, including you maybe, who simply want to obey the law?
A threat. I am here of my own volition and will. I'm just trying to help the United States of America and our country on issues that are so divisive. It doesn't worry me if somebody wants to fire me because I'm not doing what they want to do. I have a great state to return to and a home there. So no, I'm not threatened by it, and I trust our employees are not. I've spoken to many of them. I plan to visit as many of our offices as I can to explain that to them.
Well, I think that the public record contradicts that, with some of your employees are feeling like they're being retaliated against or threatened. Lawsuits, perhaps. I want to quote President of the National ICE Council, Chris Crane, saying that the agency leadership is, quote, punishing law enforcement officers who are just trying to uphold the U.S. law and willing to take away their retirement, their job, their ability to support their families in favor of someone who is here illegally and violating our laws, either taking a disciplinary action or threatening disciplinary action.
And I've met with Mr.
That's
Crane.
serious.
Yes. And I've met with Mr. Crane. We actually have had positive meetings because we're both working together to try to get our ERO people on a parity level with respect to their employment, immigration enforcement agents and deportation officers, and we hope we have accomplished that. But I'm not going to get in the middle of pending litigation. I cannot comment further on that, but I want to work with Mr. Crane and with our labor partners to try to make things better for our employees. In the end, the most important thing in accomplishing our mission is our employees, and that they feel like they have an ability to do their jobs, and for me to provide the tools they need for that, and I'm working very hard to do that.
Well, you mentioned the labor leaders as well, and as you know, Chris Cabrera also has concerns as well with Local 3307, and I'm not going to get into what he's been saying, but there are concerns out there, as you know. But, you know, this is serious stuff. This also gets down to, I think, the morale of the whole department. We've had these discussions with Secretary Johnson as well. There seems to be just a real lowest in the administration, I think, is this at the Department of Homeland Security. What are you doing to try to increase that, and what are you doing to try to stand up and protect your personnel who may feel intimidated here at times with policies and directives when they believe they themselves are just trying to uphold the Constitution and obey the law? How do you support them? How do you help increase the morale there in this very, very important agency? And you have a very important job, and I respect you immensely. I want what's best for this country as well and for your employees.
Thank you, sir. I have actually done a lot in the 3 months that I've been there. I started with, as I think I told you, the chiefs, but I also am trying to get to as many offices as I can to meet with people and listen, just listen, make notes, come back and see what I can do about concerns and complaints there are. I've launched a professional development program where I want to make sure that our people, as I said earlier, are given the tools they need, the resources that you all have a lot to do with in order to do their jobs, and so importantly, that information technology that they need to communicate with each other and with local law enforcement. We have a group, and I'm exploring further the possibility of having a group of field office directors, supervisors, and other folks to come in regularly to visit with me so I can stay in touch with the field and not get surrounded by this, what do you call it? What do you call Washington, D.C.? How can I be nice about this?
The island surrounded by reality?
Exactly. I need a touch of reality because you can get knee-deep in things that aren't as important as serving the American public. And so I'm doing all of those things not for my own personal glory, but because I think this agency needs a lot of institutional practices, best practices that will stay even after I'm long gone.
Well, I appreciate you being here today, and I also appreciate your leadership, and I would just ask that those folks within your agency, when they believe that they're doing the right thing under the law and under the Constitution, and they feel intimidated, that you stand up for them, and I appreciate you being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.